Welcome back, guys. In this video we'll have a very important problem, engineering problem. Specifically it is statics problem, and we're gonna solve it on a script using Matlab. So the first step is to open the script. So I'm gonna open this here, new script, and then I'm gonna start by CLC clear all. Then I should define A. Now what is A? A is basically the coefficients of this x, alright? So it is the coefficients that are multiplied by this unknown, or this column vector representing the unknowns here, which is here x. So how to define A? For example, I know that the coefficient of f1 here in the first equation is minus f1. The coefficient of f2 is 0. There is no f2 here. The coefficient of f3 is cosine 60. The coefficient of h2 in the first equation 0, v2 0, v3 0. So this will be the first row of A, and so on. In order, guys, to make our life much easier, I'm gonna define small variables that are the cosine and sine of 30 and 60 here. So as you can see, there is a lot of cosine 60 and sine 60, so that in order not to each time say cosine 30 or cosine 60, what I'm going to do is to define C3, like let's say, or C30 as cosine 30. And as we know, guys, the angle in Matlab is in radians, so this is how this is how you can convert it into degrees. All right, so this is how you convert the degrees into radians. So you should multiply it by pi and divide it by 180. And then the same for S30, I mean by S sine, and the same for 60. Let me, right, so this will be 60 here, this will be 60, 60, and this will be 60. Alright, so guys, I can define these variables, or you can use directly cosine in your matrix A. So let's start by A. I know, guys, that if I'm gonna define a matrix A, I should put space or comma between the elements of the same row, and then a semicolon column between rows. So let's start by the first equation, and this equation will be represented by the first row. I know that the first coefficient is for f1 is minus C30. What is the coefficient of f2? It is 0. What is the coefficient of f3? Is C60. I can put comma. I'm going to put comma, guys, because this will minimize the space. C0, C60, and then what is the coefficient of H2? Guys, I'm following this order, right? After F3 you have H2 and X. What is the coefficient of H2 is 0. What is the coefficient of V2 is 0. What is the coefficient of V3 is 0. And then, guys, I'm going to go to this next row, so I'm going to put semicolon. Alright, so in the next equation, what do I have? I have the coefficient of f1 is S30, comma, the coefficient of f2 is 0, the coefficient of f3 is minus S60. This 1000 here is nothing except a coefficient, and this 1000 will be shown in B, right? So this is for f1 and f3. Now I don't have any coefficient for H2, any coefficient for V2, and any coefficient for V3, and then a semicolon. And then in the third equation, the coefficient of f1 is 330 plus, alright? The coefficient of f2 is 1, the coefficient of f3 is 0, the coefficient of H2 is 1, the coefficient of V2 is 0, the coefficient of V3 is 0, and then let's move to the next row. Next row will be the fourth equation, which is here. Alright, so basically the coefficient of f1 is S30, alright, and all other coefficients are 0 except for V2. So 0 for f2, 0 for f3, 0 for h2, 1 for V2 and 0 for V3. Alright, and then I'm going to move to the fifth equation, which is here. The fifth equation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, this is the fifth equation. I have a 0 for F1, a minus 1 for F2, a minus C60 for F3, a 0 for H2, a 0 for V2, a 0 for V3, and then I have a 0 for F1, a 0 for F2, a 0 for F3, 0 for S60 for F3, 0 for H2, 1 for V2, 0 for V2, and 1 for V3. Okay, so basically this is A. I'm going to click enter, and let's see A in the matrix way. Okay, in order to see this A in a matrix way, what I'm going to do is to run this code, alright? So let's run this code. CA, so of course I'm going to call this, let's say, truss. I have a lot of truss example, so I'm going to call this truss underscore 1. And let's see A. So you can now compare if there is any error between this A and your system of equations. I'm going to continue, and I can predict if there was an error after running the complete code. Alright, so this is A. Let's put a semicolon here, and let's define B. And what is B? B is the constant column vector. So as you can see, guys, if I go back to the Word file, I only have one constant, and it is in the second equation. The second equation has one constant, which is 1000, because you should remove this to after the equal sign, because it is in the form of A. X is equal to B. So guys, I only have one constant, and it is in the second row. So what I'm going to do is to put 0, semicolon. If you put a comma here, you will have an error after executing A minus 1 times B. It should be a column vector, not a row vector. So it is 0, semicolon, 1000, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the 6. Alright, so this is B. Now, as simple as that, you can find X. X is A minus 1 times B. That's it. This is X. And you can, of course, remove the semicolon to see it printed out in your command window. Right? So I'm going to run this code, and let's hope that I'm not have any error, and this is X, yes. So this is X, guys. In less than 1 second, Matlab can find the inverse of A, multiply it with B, and find X. What if you're going to do it by hand? It will take about 30 minutes, right? So this is X. Now, why is the order important? Because from this X, you can find in the order your unknowns. So guys, as you can see in this document, X is F1, F2, F3, H2, V2, V3, which means that F1 is minus 500, F2 is 433, F3 is minus 866, H2 is 0, V2 is 250, and V3 is 750. Now guys, what is also important is that this editor is saved in your documents. So if you have another example of truss where you have another external force, you can only adjust on the script, and then you can find directly your X. Before finishing, guys, what if I want you to find directly F1, F2, F3, H2, V2, V3? Alright, so from this X, I want you to find F1 in the editor. Alright, so that in the command window I can see F1 is equal to this value, F2 is equal to this value. In fact, I know that X is the common vector of F1, F2, F3, H2, V2, V3. So I know that F1 is equal to X of 1, which is the first element of X. So this is from the array indexing. F2 is X of 2. F3 is X of 3. And then H2 is x of 4, v2 is x of 5, and v3 is x of 6. So this will be the whole script that can solve for all the unknowns, and then I'm going to run it again. And then you can see here, guys, that in your workspace, F1 has the value of -100, F2, F3, H2, V2, and V3. Sorry, this V3 should be big V3, so I'm going to run it again, and this will be V2 and V3. And of course, if you remove the semicolon from here, if you remove all these semicolons, let's show it to you, and run it again, you can find that these are the values in your command. So guys, I want you now to practice on the script, and then in the next hour, we will have like our first graded classwork, and of course it will be to write a script, a basic simple script. The script could be any simple engineering problems. You don't have to have some knowledge on any problem. I'm going to give you all the equations if they are needed. So basically, guys, it is to write a script, simple script, save it, and send it back to me to grade it. Thank you.